Hello, and welcome to day 3 of the Frequency Bone Summer Music Connection. Hopefully during the course of these days you're looking over those preparation questions and seeing if they're changing as you look into this work. Or it might not be right away, and there's no rush. But in time, you might see a change in what you want your artistic life to be, for example, or what you think your specialness is. Because sometimes what we think we are, there's other things that we just didn't see. Or what music is. So, music, we talked about, consists of rhythm, pitch, and timbre, for example. Consists of a lot of things. And also the spirit of the music. So that's why I want to speak a bit about the overlay system. During the course of my career, people have heard me speak about it. People have heard my wife, Carol Vieira, speak about it. And it's a very important system, and one that a person can have a fantastic diagnostic tool for themselves to work with. The first overlay is the robotic systems, the automatic robotic systems, your machine. For example, in a brass player, it would be your embouchure structure, your breathing systems, and of course, your concepts. And if you're a trombone player, slide technique gets into it. If you're a trumpet or a horn player, a tuba player, then your fingers get into it. And if you're a singer, obviously your air support systems, your vocal cords, your tongue, just like in a brass player too, or a wind player. This is all the machine stuff, okay? Also, what's included in the first overlay is music's basics. Now, the second overlay is called skill and choice. Let's go back. Do you remember when you first got on a bicycle? That was tough. You actually didn't have a lot of skill because you haven't mastered the basics of the first overlay of riding a bike, which is balance. And once you get that under control, and you figure out all the different component parts, that goes into your automatic systems. That's why they say, oh, it's like riding a bike. They say that for many different things. Because it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. So that's a fantastic thing. It's actually a double-edged sword, but we'll get into that. And so the second overlay, once you start gaining more and more experience, more control over what you're doing, all of a sudden there's versatility. And if there's more versatility, then there's more skill, obviously. And then guess what? Greater choice. Greater choice, for the most part. So that's why the second overlay is called choice. Skill and choice. Because it's dependent on the development of the first overlay. Now, at least in this way of thinking about it right now, because there's levels of looking at all of these overlays. The third overlay is called integration and art. That's where the marriage of the first overlay and the second overlay, they work into such a way, like two pieces of wood rubbing together, they create something. And the nature of what they create, that's the substance and territory of the third overlay. The atmospheric resultant, the feeling resultant, another human acoustics, or other acoustics, on a bird's or a dog's acoustics, on a tree's acoustics. So you can see that these three overlays, if you're playing and you're getting over obsessed with one of the overlays, it would really probably do you very well to go to one of the other overlays, to water the root, for example, of maybe the overlay you're having trouble with. People in this day and age get very, very hung up on the first overlay because we're trying to be such fantastic machines lately that it's turning into almost a contest. How much can you do? How much can you do? How much can you do? I wrote a funny little song once saying, well, all you guys are so great. I'm pretty good, but I'm going to make my pretty good sing. So, depending on the first overlay that you have, you don't have to have the greatest first overlay in the world to be able to infuse some great music into it. And let's look at that. What is great music? There's the third overlay territory. Great music is the feeling that it creates. My grandmother was a great musician. She could take my headache away by singing. She was a great musician. My mother could take my fear away from her singing and make me laugh. She was a great musician. My grandfather was a self-taught violinist. He'd play, a tear would come down, he'd connect him to his family and his homeland. He would time travel, and the person listening could only be humbled if they had the ears and the feelings that weren't crowded by the cholesterol of judgment, of the overeducated kind that thinks that everything needs certain kinds of training in order for it to manifest to its full potential. Now, yes, there are different kinds of trainings. And if you work with the overlay system in a certain way, you won't lose touch with that third overlay. And remember how we talked about the original you and the specialness of you? That's third overlay territory. That's right. And how you maneuver between the third overlay and the first overlay, that's the second overlay. That's the liaison point. That's right. That's the driver of the vehicle, the 3 overlay bus. It's a 3-decker bus. So, depending on your decisions, which is second overlay, you will affect your first overlay development. Depending on how you work on your first overlay, can help you move in to the third overlay in time. But if you don't have the deep desire to want to have a third overlay that is beyond conservatory music schooled approved, the thing that says you will get a job, you might miss some of the art you could have. You might miss some of it. It's very, very important that these are all taken into account. Having trouble with a solo? Go to the third overlay. Ask yourself, what is this trying to say to me? Does it speak to me? Can it speak to anyone else? That might affect your second overlay that says, I know what's missing. And then you can work on the first overlay mechanics to get the bus going. You can start from any point, and in the end you'll find they're all the same.